Hello everyone, welcome to my lecture series of electromagnetic fields. We will discuss different theories, phenomena and numerical solution of different cases in this series. I hope this series will give a fruitful outcome to physics scholars or engineering students. So up to the last part of this lecture series, we have seen the boundary conditions between conductor and dielectric material and the boundary condition between two different dielectrics. Now today in this video, we are going to learn about the concept of capacitance. So different concepts of related to capacitor, such as the series connection of capacitor, parallel connection of capacitor, then parallel plate capacitor, composite parallel plate capacitor, the coaxial cable, the spherical capacitor, and finally the energy stored in capacitor. These are some conceptual topics that should be well understood regarding the concept of capacitor is concerned. So let us start with the very fundamental understanding about the capacitance. So to understand what the actual capacitance is, let us consider a random dielectric medium. So I am considering a volume of any particular dielectric medium. It should be anything, fine. So let us say it is having epsilon p as a permittivity. Okay, and inside this random dielectric medium, we have two metallic surfaces, or say two conducting volumes at some separation. So as you can see, we have two metallic surfaces with some separation. Let us say this segment is M1 and this segment is M2. Here M represents the metal, fine, or conducting part. Suppose M1 is charged with some positive charges and M2 is charged with the equal amount of charge but negative in polarity. Okay, so there are no other charges present in the dielectric, because we know that all the other charges inside the dielectric medium are bound charges. Okay, so the total charge of the system is 0. If we take the summation of charge, then Q total will be equal to 0, because the medium is dielectric, so it will have the bound charges which is electrically neutral, and these M1 and M2 both are having some surface charge densities, but the amount or the magnitude of the charge densities of M1 and M2 are equal, so the total charge of all our system is 0, and some charge plus Q resides on M1 and some charge minus Q resides on M2. Fine. Here it is important to understand that inside the metal means the space inside the metal, the volume charge density will be 0, as we have seen in the properties of conductor. All plus Q and minus Q charges will reside strictly on the surfaces of M1 and M2 respectively. Okay, now such a system, here we have considered some initial situation of having a volume of any particular dielectric medium, then we have added different components one by one, and finally we have formed a system which is shown in your screen. So such system having two conducting surfaces carrying equal and opposite charges, and both the surfaces are separated by a dielectric, is called the capacitive system. So if we want to define a capacitive system, then we can say two conducting surfaces, here M1 and M2 are these two conducting surfaces, carrying equal and opposite charge. So as you can see, M1 is consisting plus Q charge and M2 is consisting minus Q charge. So equal and opposite charge and separated by a dielectric is called a capacitive system, and it forms a capacitance. So here we can show the filled lines like this. Okay, so this is nothing but a capacitor. So it is not necessary that every time we are having a very handsome two plates and some dielectric between them, then also it consists of capacitance. Fine, capacitance can be formed anywhere in the nature. Fine, because as an electrical engineer we must understand that wherever, even at the pole, for an example, here is our distribution pole, this is the cross arm of the pole. Let us say this is a pin type insulator and a conductor is passing from the top of this pin type insulator. Fine, now this cross arm is having a metallic structure. It is connected with a pole and the pole is grounded, as you can see. So the capacitor also forms over here because the conductor is having a metallic material, the cross arm and a pole which is also a metallic material, and this ceramic pin type insulator it behaves as an dielectric medium which separates these two conducting surfaces. So one capacitor forms between the conductor and ground. Fine, so it is not necessary that every time capacitor is to be manufactured. What I mean to say is capacitance can be formed anywhere in the nature. The only necessary condition is that there should be two conducting surfaces and these two surfaces should be separated by any dielectric medium. So this is the very fundamental concept behind the capacitance. Fine, now the electric field is normal to the conductor surface and the electric flux is directed from M1 towards M2. So as you can see, the electric flux is directed from M1 towards M2. There exists a potential difference between two surfaces M1 and M2, and let the potential difference, let us say V12 is equals to potential difference between M1 and M2, and the ratio of the magnitudes of total charge on any one of the two conductors and potential difference between these conductors are called the capacitance. So the capacitance is defined as the ratio of the total charge on any one conducting surface to the potential difference between two surfaces. So this is how a capacitance can be defined. So considering these things into mind, we can write, so capital C is a symbol of capacitance. So C can be written as the total charge, that is plus Q, because we need to consider the charge on any one conducting surface. Fine. So we are considering Q, and in the denominator we are going to have the potential difference between M1 and M2. So we can write Q upon V12, or in general we are using C is equals to Q by V. The unit of capacitance is farad. It is adopted in the memory of Michael Faraday, who have done tremendous research in the field of capacitance. The symbol of farad is capital F, but actually in practice microfarad or picofarad capacitance are majorly used. Okay, so this is nothing but a smaller unit of capacitance. Fine. So farad can be defined as, see here, the unit of charge is nothing but coulomb, and unit of potential difference is nothing but volt. So 1 farad can be defined as, if any capacitor stores 1 coulomb charge per unit potential difference, then the capacitance of such capacitor is called 1 farad. Okay, so this is how we can understand the mathematical representation of capacitance. But this C is equals to Q by V can only be used when the system is so uniform. Fine. Wherever the field is non-uniform or it is time variant field, at that time we cannot write C is equals to Q by V. The same thing we have seen at the time of we were discussing the Ohm's law for electrodynamics. Okay, so here we can write, for general purpose, C is equals to Q by V, but Q is nothing but the closed surface integration of d bar dot ds bar. What is this? This is nothing but the mathematical representation of Gauss's law, divided by the potential difference. Potential difference is defined as negative of integration from negative to positive. Here please write negative place to positive place. Okay, E bar dot dl bar. This is nothing but the amount of work done to move a unit test charge from the negatively charged conductor to the positively charged conductor. We can further simplify this by using d bar is equals to epsilon E bar. So in numerator we can write epsilon into E bar dot ds bar divided by negative of integration from minus p to plus p E bar dot dl bar, and this is a general representation of a capacitance of any particular system. Okay, so now the most common configuration of capacitance or capacitor is nothing but the parallel plate capacitor. Fine. So if we want to derive an equation of capacitance for any parallel plate capacitor, then let us consider a right-handed Cartesian coordinate system as shown in figure. Now I am imagining one plate of the capacitor on the xy plane. So this is our first plate of capacitor. Then at some particular height, let us say at the height of some small d, I am imagining another plate of capacitor pardon my drawing, it is not so accurate, but I hope it is enough to let you understand the concept. Okay, so at some height we are having another plate of capacitor. Okay, so this is our x-axis, this horizontal axis y-axis, and vertical axis is z-axis. Okay, so let us say this bottom plate is positively charged and the area of plate is capital A. So obviously both the plates are of equal cross sectional area, so both the plate are having the area capital A. This is positively charged, so the charge density rho s can be defined, and this upper plate is negatively charged by the same amount, so the charge density of upper plate is nothing but minus rho s. Okay, and here in between these two plates we have filled some dielectric material with permittivity equals to epsilon. Okay, so now we are going to derive the equation of the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor. Okay, so here the charge on any plate is nothing but the surface charge density rho s into the magnitude of the area, that is A. So Q is nothing but rho s into A coulomb. Then the next thing that we are required is the potential difference between these two plates, and in order to determine the potential difference we first going to determine the field intensity, then with the use of gradient we are going to derive the potential difference. Okay, now as we can see that with respect to this area, the distance between these two plates are very less, so the distance between two plates is very small compared to the area of plates, the area of plates, and that's why we can imagine both these plates as an infinite sheet of charge. Fine, because here distance is very less, so if we consider both the plates as infinite sheet of charge, then the field intensity due to due to this bottom plate, that is E1, so E1 can be written as rho s upon 2 epsilon, and the direction of this intensity will be plus Az bar. Fine, volt per meter. Similarly, the intensity due to upper plate, that is negatively charged plate, for the negatively charged plate the surface density is nothing but minus rho s divided by 2 epsilon, and the direction of this intensity is in the negative z direction, so it will be negative Az bar volt per meter. So the total intensity inside the capacitor, so let us say it is E bar, which is nothing but E1 bar plus E2 bar. So we can write rho s upon 2 epsilon plus minus rho s upon 2 epsilon into minus 1 Az bar. So here minus will be converted into plus, and finally we will have E bar equals to rho s upon epsilon Az bar. Fine. So now we are having two values. First, Q is equals to rho s into A. Second, E bar is equals to rho s into E bar. But in order to derive the formula for capacitance, I require the formula of V. Fine. So V is nothing but, so now we are going to use the definition of potential, that is potential is nothing but negative integration from minus plate to plus plate E bar dot dl bar. Now we have the value of E bar. In the Cartesian coordinate system, dl bar is defined as dx ax bar plus dy ay bar plus dz az bar. So putting these values, and we know that after dot product, az bar dot ax bar and az bar dot ay bar both will be 0. The only thing remain will be az bar dot az bar, which will in turn to be 1. Okay, so we can write minus. Now the position of negative plate is at the distance d on the z-axis. The position of positive plate is at the distance 0. Fine. Now E bar is nothing but rho s upon epsilon az bar, and here with the dot product we will have dz into az bar. So finally our equation will become negative integration from small d to 0 rho s upon epsilon dz. Now integration of 1 with respect to z will be z itself, so you will have minus rho s upon epsilon into z. So lower limit is d, upper limit is 0. So you are having negative rho s upon epsilon 0 minus d, which is nothing but rho s into d upon epsilon. So we finally have the value of potential difference between positive and negative plate as rho s into d divided by epsilon. So now, as per the definition of capacitance, so let us utilize this space. So C is nothing but Q divided by V. In place of Q, we will put rho s into A. In place of V, we can put rho s into D divided by epsilon. So the denominator of the denominator will go to the numerator, and finally the capacitance of parallel plate capacitor can be determined by epsilon into A, which is the area of the plate, divided by D, which is the separation between two plates. So this is how we can derive a very general and popular equation of capacitance, fine, with the help of electrostatic field or field theory and a Cartesian coordinate system as a reference coordinate system. Fine. Now capacitors in series. So this is indeed very popular phenomena for electrical engineers. If in circuit we are having, see, what is the need to connect the capacitors in series and parallel? Because in a market there are very standard capacitor which are being produced. So for very popular values of capacitance, we can have the ready-made capacitor from the market, but for any specific value it may happen that the capacitor of that value is not available in the market. So at that time we need to have some combination of available values of capacitor to achieve the desired value of capacitance, and that is why the series and parallel combinations of capacitors are required to learn. Fine. So here consider that we have connected three capacitors, let us say C1, C2 and C3, connected in series between 2 points A and B. Now if we apply the voltage V across point A and B, then some voltage V1 will come across capacitor C1, some voltage V2 will come across the capacitor C2, and similarly some voltage V3 will be across the capacitor V3. But here the current through all the capacitor will be same, and if the current is same, that means the stored charge in each capacitor will be same. So Q will be equals to C1 V1, so it will be same as equals to C2 V2, and the same will be C3 V3. Okay, and we can also write V1 is equals to Q upon C1, V2 is equals to Q upon C2, and V3 is equals to Q upon C3. Now, according to the Kirchhoff's second law, the total voltage supplied will be equal to the total potential drop across the element. So capital V will be equals to V1 plus V2 plus V3. So suppose there is an equivalent capacitor, say Ceq, which stores the same charge Q when the voltage of capital V volt is applied across its plates. Fine. Then we can write Q is equals to Ceq multiplied by V, or we can say V is equals to Q upon Ceq. So putting all these values, we are having Q upon C equivalent is equals to, in place of V1 there will be Q upon C1 plus Q upon C2 plus Q upon C3. So taking plus Q common from the numerator and cancelling from both the sides, we are having 1 upon C equivalent is equals to 1 upon C1 plus 1 upon C2 plus 1 upon C3. And if we are having, this is the formula to determine the equivalent capacitance of different capacitor connected in series. Say if we have connected n number of capacitance, then equivalent capacitance can be determined from the equation 1 upon C equivalent equals to 1 upon C1 plus 1 upon C2 plus up to plus 1 upon Cn. So this is the general formula to calculate the equivalent capacitance for a series capacitive circuit. Now, what about the parallel capacitor? So, parallel capacitor, let us consider the same 2 points A and B, and now I am connecting the same 3 capacitors C1, C2 and C3 in a parallel manner across point A and B. So as you can see, 3 capacitors C1, C2 and C3, the applied voltage is capital V volt. Now here, as you can see, the total current will be divided into 3 parts. So let us say total current is I and the corresponding charge is Q. Then it will be divided into 3 parts, I1, I2 and I3, and the corresponding charges to these currents are Q1, Q2 and Q3 respectively. Fine. And as it is a parallel connection, the voltage across each capacitor will be same as V volt. Fine. So we can write Q1 equals to C1 into V, Q2 equals to C2 into V, and Q3, that is the charge stored in capacitor 3, equals to C3 into V. Here, from the Kirchhoff's first law, we can write I is equals to I1 plus I2 plus I3. So the corresponding stored charge, capital Q is equals to Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3. Now, assume there is an equivalent capacitor Ceq which stores the same charge Q when the potential difference of V volt is applied across the points A and B. Fine. So at that time, the Q can be written as C equivalent into V. So let us put this 3 and this 4th value in this equation. We will have C equivalent into V is equals to C1 multiplied by V plus C2 multiplied by V plus C3 multiplied by V. Now taking V common from the right hand side of the equation and cancel it out from both the sides, we get C equivalent is equals to C1 plus C2 plus C3. So this is the equation to determine the equivalent capacitance for parallel circuit. Fine. Now if we have n capacitors connected in a parallel way, then the C equivalent can be written as C1 plus C2 plus up to plus Cn. The unit of capacitance is Faraday. So from this discussion we can say that whenever we require a larger value of capacitance, then it is advisable to connect the capacitors in parallel, because the equivalent value of such parallel circuit will be higher than the highest value of the connected capacitor. Whereas if we want a smaller value of capacitance, at that time the series connection of capacitors are advisable, because the equivalent value of capacitance in a series connection will be the lower than the lowest value of the capacitor connected. Fine. So both these statements are valid and can be proved with the help of these final equations. Moving further, composite parallel plate capacitor. Now after understanding this concept of series and parallel capacitors, now it is many a time we require the variable capacitor. So in order to have the variable value of capacitor during operation, so if we want to change the value of capacitance without turning off the circuit, at that time composite parallel plate capacitors are very useful. So this composite parallel plate capacitor is nothing but the space between the plates are filled with more than one dielectric medium. So composite parallel plate capacitor is the capacitor in which the space between two plates is filled with more than one dielectric material. So if we consider a front view of a capacitor, then this horizontal line represents a plate of capacitor. This horizontal line represents the second plate of the capacitor. Now if we want to fill more than one dielectric medium, then we have two ways. The first way is to fill the dielectric parallel to the plates. So up to this I am using some particular, let us say the separation between plates are D, the area of plates are capital A. Fine. So up to some distance D1 I am filling a paper, for an example, which is having the epsilon 1 permittivity, and above this line I am filling PVC, or say polyvinyl chloride, which is also a dielectric. So this distance will be D minus D1, and I am using PVC as a second material. Fine. So this such configuration is called the composite parallel plate capacitor. One may also think that despite of having the parallel filling, one can have the normal filling with the plate. So I can also fill two dielectric between two plates, such as, now this is the separation between two plates. Fine. So here total area of plate was A, and some A1 area is utilized by paper, and the remaining A minus A1 area is utilized by PVC. Fine. So in this manner also one can form the composite parallel plate capacitor. Fine. So this configuration that is in first figure is called the dielectric interface is parallel to the conducting plates. And here the dielectric interface is perpendicular to the conducting plates. One can also have the combination of both this configuration. Fine. We can also use the parallel and perpendicular, both the interface. Fine. So at that time more than 2 or more than 3 dielectric materials are filled between two plates. Fine. Generally the solid capacitors can be easily formed in this manner, composite parallel plate capacitor. Fine. So for the first case of the dielectric interface is parallel to the conducting plate. So we can now draw a 3D image in which a dielectric is filled parallel to the conducting plates. So as you can see, this is an interface between two dielectric. This lower slab, this is our lower plate of capacitor. The upper rectangular is the second plate of the capacitor. This lower slab represents a dielectric medium 1, which is having the permittivity epsilon 1, and this second slab represents the another dielectric medium. Let us name it dielectric 2 with permittivity epsilon 2. Okay, so now let us say Q is a charge on a plate, then two dielectric medium is there, and we know that if the total separation between plate is D, then the separation, or say the thickness of dielectric 1, say small d1, and the thickness of dielectric 2 is small d2. The area of plate is say A. Then we can write E1 bar, which is the intensity in region D1, intensity in region D1, and E2 bar is the intensity in region D2. The flow of derivation will be very same. To determine the value of capacitance, we must have the value of charge to be divided with the potential difference. The potential difference cannot be directly determined. For that we first need to determine the intensity. Then with the help of the formula of potential difference, we can have the value of V. Then simply taking the ratio Q by V, we can have the value of capacitance. Okay, so here both the intensities are uniform, so V1 can be written as E1 into D1, V2 can be written as E2 into D2, and the total volt, the total potential difference is V is equals to V1 plus V2, which can be written as E1 into D1 plus E2 into D2. Now, at a dielectric interface, so we just learned the boundary condition between two dielectric. At that time, we have learned that the normal component of flux density, that is dn1 and dn2, both will be equal. So normal component of densities will be equal. So d1 can be written as, here small d is a thickness of each dielectric material, and capital D is a flux density inside the material. Okay, so capital D1 is epsilon 1 E1. Same way D2 can be written as epsilon 2 E2. And if we substitute the value of E1 and E2 in this equation, then we can have capital D1 upon epsilon 1 multiplied by D1 plus capital D2 upon epsilon 2 multiplied by D2. Fine. Then for such composition, D1 can be equals to D2, which is nothing but the surface charge density at the of the material. So putting D1 equals to D2 is equals to rho s into above equation, we will have V is equals to rho s will be come out as a constant into bracket D1 upon epsilon 1 plus D2 upon epsilon 2. So now we have the value of V. Now capacitance can be defined as Q by V. So in place of Q, we can write rho s into A. In place of V, we can write rho s into D1 upon epsilon 1 plus D2 upon epsilon 2. So rho s will get cancel out, and finally we can have A divided by D1 upon epsilon 1 plus D2 upon epsilon 2. So this is the formula of capacitance of a composite parallel plate capacitor, where the dielectric is filled parallel with the conducting surface. In general, we can write C equals to 1 upon D1 upon epsilon 1A plus D2 upon epsilon 2A. Fine. It is nothing but I have transformed the capital A from the numerator to the denominator. Fine. Now if we move this denominator to the left hand side of the equation and this C to the right hand side of the equation, then we can write 1 upon C is equals to D1 upon epsilon 1A plus D2 upon epsilon 2A. Now D1 upon epsilon 1A is nothing but 1 upon C1. D2 upon epsilon 2A is nothing but 1 upon C2. So in general we can say 1 upon C is equals to 1 upon C1 plus 1 upon C2. So whenever a composite parallel plate capacitor is formed by filling the dielectric normal to the conducting plate, then the equivalent capacitance can be analogous to the parallel connection of capacitor. Okay, now what about the composite plate capacitor in which dielectric is filled perpendicular to the conducting plate? So again we are having some area A and the distance small d, or say separation between plates. So now let us say some area A1 is filled by a medium with having the permittivity epsilon 1 and the corresponding charge density is rho s1, and the remaining area A2 is filled with the different dielectric material having the permittivity epsilon 2 and charge density as rho s2. Fine. So with this conditions, we are having E is equals to V by D. That is a valid equation for uniform field distribution. Okay, so we can write here d1 equals to epsilon 1 e1, d2 equals to epsilon 2 e2. This is also a very general relationship between flux density and field intensity. So here, as you can see, E1 and E2 both are equal because the intensity in the inside the capacitor is same. So we can write d1 is equals to epsilon 1 V by d. Similarly, d2 is equals to epsilon 2 V by d. And now from the Kirchhoff's first law, we can write Q is equals to Q1 plus Q2 because here the charge densities in both the mediums are different. Okay, so we can write rho S1 A1 plus rho S2 A2, which is nothing but D1 A1 plus D2 A2. Now simply putting the values of D1 and D2 in this equation, we can have Q equals to epsilon 1 V by D into capital D1 plus epsilon, in place of capital D1 itself, we have put the value epsilon 1 V by D. Here it will be A1. And putting the value of D2, we will have epsilon 2 V by D multiplied by A2. Now from both the terms of right hand side, we can take capital V as common, and moving the V to the left hand side of the equation, it will be Q by V, which is nothing but the capacitance. So it will be equals to epsilon 1 A1 upon D plus epsilon 2 A2 upon D, which is nothing but C1 plus C2. So we can say that the composite parallel plate capacitor in which the dielectric is filled perpendicular to the conducting plates is analogous to the capacitor connected in series. Fine. Capacitor connected in parallel. So both the configuration are having its own virtues, its own benefit. Fine. One is particularly used when the higher value of capacitance is required, and another is used when the lower value of capacitance is required. Same way the composite parallel plate capacitor is used when the variable value of capacitance is required. Now the capacitance of a coaxial cable. So as an electrical engineer, it is very important to determine the capacitance of a cable at the time of designing a underground wiring system. Okay, so let us consider a coaxial cable in which the core is a conductor. Let us say it is a homogeneous conductor, and around the core of the conductor, number of dielectric materials are arranged layer by layer. As such, now we are not going deep into the construction of the cable. Rather, we will just assume that different dielectric materials are filled around this conductor, and at the most outer surface there will be the armoring of cable, which will behave as a second conducting surface. So this is a first conducting surface, which is a conductor. This is a armoring of cable which behaves as a second conducting surface, and in between these two conducting surface, the dielectric are filled. Okay, so it satisfies the condition of forming a capacitance. So it is obvious that some capacitance will be formed. Now consider the conductor is positively charged the radius of conductor is A and the radius of outer surface of cable is small b. This positively charged conductor can be written as Q is equals to rho L into L, where rho L is the line charge density of the cable. So for a cable having such configuration, we can determine the capacitance as, now first consider the cable as a infinite long conductor. So for infinite long conductor, the formula of field intensity that we have already derived at the time of Gauss's law and electrostatic studies. So it was rho L upon 2 pi epsilon into R AR bar. Fine. And as this is a coaxial cable, it is so natural that cylindrical coordinate system will be more efficient to solve such cases. Fine. So if we want to derive the V, then we can have negative integration from minus plate to plus plate E bar dot dl bar, and here cylindrical coordinate system will be used. So in cylindrical coordinate system, dl bar can be written as dr ar bar plus r d phi a phi bar plus dz az bar. Now as the dot product is involved, only ar bar dot ar bar will be non-zero, ar bar dot a phi bar and ar bar dot az bar will give the zero answer, so no need to write it down. So finally V is equals to minus, now negative plate is having the radius B, positive plate is having a radius A, then in place of E we can write rho L upon 2 pi epsilon, where in place of R we will take the same dr. So this rho L and 2 pi epsilon will come out from the integration as they are constants. Integration from B to A dr upon R. Now the integration of 1 upon R with respect to R can be written as, so writing this all over again, 2 pi epsilon. Integration of 1 upon R with respect to R is natural logarithmic of curly R. The lower limit is B, upper limit is A, and if we put the minus sign, okay, let it be for now 2 pi epsilon, here it will be ln A minus ln B. If we operate this minus sign inside this bracket, then we can have rho L upon 2 pi epsilon ln B minus ln A, which is natural logarithmic, and we can write rho L upon 2 pi epsilon ln B by A. Now this is nothing but the V. Now we are interested to derive the formula for capacitance, and for that C is equals to Q by V. Now Q is nothing but rho L into L, and V can be written as rho L upon 2 pi epsilon ln B by A. So rho L will get cancel out, and finally we will have 2 pi epsilon L divided by ln B by A, which is a formula of a capacitance of coaxial cable having the length capital L. Fine. So we can say that the capacitance of coaxial cable depends on the physical dimension of that cable as well as the nature of dielectric material which is filled inside the cable. So now after coaxial cable, another type of capacitors which is uh, very much available in the practical field of electrical engineering, which is spherical capacitor. Fine. So for spherical capacitor, let us assume we have two concentric spheres. The inner sphere is having a radius a, and the outer sphere is having a radius b, and inside the space of these two concentric spheres some dielectric material is filled. Fine. So what will be the capacitance of such system? So for that, again we are going to follow the same procedure. So let us assume that the inner sphere is positively charged, so the outer sphere will be negatively charged by the same amount. Okay, so E bar can be written as Q upon 4 pi epsilon r square volt per meter, and here as the configuration itself contains the spheres, then our calculation will be in the spherical coordinate system. So we can write V is equals to negative of integration from negative place to positive place E bar dot dl bar. Now the differential length in spherical coordinate system can be written as dr ar bar plus r sin theta d theta a theta bar plus, sorry, not r sin theta, it will be r d theta a theta bar plus r sin theta d phi a phi bar. But here as we know that the intensity will be in the direction of radius, so in the dot product only ar bar dot ar bar will be non-zero. Other two dot products, that is ar bar dot a theta bar and ar bar dot a phi bar, will be 0. So we need not to write that in our calculation. Fine. So we can finally write minus. Now this q upon 4 pi epsilon will come out as a constant. In the integration part, the negative plate is having the radius b, the positive plate is having the radius a. The only thing that will remain in the integration part is r square, and the integration of 1 upon r square with respect to r is nothing but minus 1 upon r. So we can write minus q upon 4 pi epsilon minus 1 upon r, lower limit b, upper limit a. So doing so, we will have v equals to q upon 4 pi epsilon into bracket 1 upon a minus 1 upon b, and the capacitor, finally we got the equation v is equals to q upon 4 pi epsilon into bracket 1 upon a minus 1 upon b, and capacitor is defined as q by v. So moving this v to the right hand side and all the other variables to the left hand side, we will have 4 pi epsilon upon 1 upon a minus 1 upon b farad. So this is how we can determine the capacitance of a spherical capacitor. Fine. Many a times it may happen that only a single sphere or isolated sphere is there. So let us say we have a isolated sphere in which the second conducting material or second conducting surface is not available. So at that time, so this is called isolated sphere. So in case of isolated sphere, the second conducting surface is assumed at infinite distance. So this is a radius of isolated sphere, let's say A, and the radius of second conducting surface which is assumed at infinite distance. So B is assumed at infinite. So for the isolated sphere, the value of capacitance can be written as Q by V. In place of B in this equation, we can write infinity. So 1 upon infinity will be 0. So it will be 4 pi epsilon upon 1 upon A. And the denominator of denominator will go in the numerator. So it will be 4 pi epsilon A Faraday. So this is a capacitance of a isolated sphere. Fine. The only important thing to be remembered is that for isolated sphere, the second conducting surface is assumed at the infinite distance. So this is how we can derive the equations of capacitance of a different configuration, and technically we can prove any random or any irregular shape of capacitance also. Basically the logic behind each and every derivation is quite same, even the process is very similar. Fine. So that is it for today.